All right, so today we got Monique with us. I'm not going to make a big introduction because I never do that. I let people to do that themselves, and we're just going to dive right into it. So Monique, thank you so much for being here. I'd love to learn a bit more, like, who are you? Who is Monique? What do you say when somebody asks you like something like that?
Well, you're starting with the smallest question first, right? So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. It's amazing to be here. And, in a way we share a mission, right? I mean, we share a mission to really enable, empower people to get together and, to really fulfill their dreams in a way, right? But, also you and I, we have a big heart for entrepreneurship, right? We believe that when people do what they love doing most, making a difference out there, that is, has a big why behind it, that's coming from their heart, that drives them, that motivates them, that kicks their butt every single day. When they want to make that big difference, they need to get together, they need to connect, not only on the mind, but also from the heart. And, this is what we do. So this is who I am, and what I do, so who is Monique? Well, my story actually starts, basically from a very interesting starting point, where actually I was born and grew up in Eastern Germany, right, in the darkest communist times. And when you think about it, at that time, we lived in a communist system, which means that there were no entrepreneurs. There was no entrepreneurial spirit, right? I mean, people were state employed, resources state owned. And, basically our parents, they were in a job in the same company, state owned, for their whole lives, right? So the way we grew up, we didn't even think about becoming entrepreneurs and making a big individual difference, or starting a business ourselves, or running a business ourselves, right? So we grew up with the belief that if you have a good education and then you get a good job and then you're happy, right? You're happy chappy. The interesting thing is for me that even before I turned 18, I had already found 3 different needs out there within people that I was able to turn into money. So by the age I was 18, I already had other people earning money for me and with me, okay? In communist times in a way, right? And then, when I was in my late teens, obviously the socialist system changed and, the world opened up, Germany got reunited. And still, even though I had this entrepreneurial spirit inside of me, I have no clue where it came from, okay, but it was just there. I still followed a normal path, right? I mean, I studied economics, I followed and climbed the career ladder very fast in big corporates, worked there for 15 years. And more, I had the feeling like I'm the right fish, but in the wrong pond. So I felt like if I ever want to be a CEO, I want to be a CEO in an organization, that I build or co-build, that is really, leading, having a stronger purpose and a deeper purpose of making a bigger difference, that really provides a working environment for people to connect, to really do what they love doing instead of suppressing their talents and their personalities. So that started to become my vision, and eventually I was brave and courageous enough to step out. A lot of people called me crazy, a lot of people called me stupid, just throw away my career and my shiny company car and all these kind of things and my big salary check every month. But I felt that the day when I stepped out, it's now about 6 years ago, for the first time in my life, or for a long time in my life, I really felt that I was on the right path again, right? And then I don't know about you, but most entrepreneurs that I know, the first business they build, they don't necessarily succeed with right away, right? So interesting enough, I started to build a business together with 5 other partners, and I call it like these 1.5 years of trying hard, putting all our hearts and minds and everything into it, and money and time and blood, sweat, and tears. It was this 1.5 years was my time of learning the 10,000 ways of how not to build a business. Okay, so learned a lot, and then I was back at point zero, and then I felt I was really asking big questions. So, I was still scared. I was still thinking, oh my God, can I do it on my own? I'm stepping out of this now. Even though there were 6 very smart, experienced business people, we failed. How could I ever make it happen on my own? However, I thought, I really want to learn. I really want to do something that's close to my heart. And I really want to learn, how do you create something out of nothing? How do you become an entrepreneur, and how do you become successful, right? And it was really back then that I struggled a lot. I didn't know what to do and how to do things. I really had a very naive view. I thought, hey, I'd worked for 15 years in big corporates. I know how business works, right? I thought, hey, I was the global head of something in a big corporate. Well, I had a global network. I thought that would help me, but no, it didn't, because my network was all employees, right? And employees, for me, I'm not judging which way someone chooses in their life. I think if people want to be employed, it's perfectly fine. If people want to start their own business, it's perfectly fine. Everyone needs to make their own decision. But I personally feel that when you study economy and you go into the corporate world, to be honest, you know nothing about what it takes to start and grow a business. Okay, no matter how successful you are in your career. And so there I was back at point zero, and I still, I knew what not to do, but not so much about what to do. I had a big network, but not of entrepreneurs. And, I felt pretty lonely, even though I went to a lot of networking events and I met nice people, but again, a lot of them couldn't show me the way because they were employed. And even people that weren't employed, a lot of them struggled themselves, right? And as you know, most businesses are built out of an own need, out of an own drive of missing something in their life, in their work, in the world. And they say, hey, this is not there. So I really want to build it. Okay. So what I realized when I was back at point zero, I really said, okay, so what I'd really like to do now is I want to learn how to start and grow a business. And at the same time, I wanted to do it in a scalable way, because a lot of entrepreneurs out there are actually, solopreneurs. And again, there's nothing wrong with being a solopreneur. I just think it's a very risky business model where you're just selling your time. And if you can't work, you're not making money, right? So I don't know about you, but I meet a lot of entrepreneurs at the age of 55, 60 that say, I'm a consultant coach or trainer, but I can't stop working because the money I made was good to keep me alive, but I don't have a lot of savings. And if I don't sell my time, I have nothing to live from. So what I really felt is that, back then, if I wanted to build a business, I wanted to do it in a scalable way. I didn't want to do it all on my own. And I wanted to make sure that what we are building is really serving people. And, so what I felt is I really want to learn how to become an entrepreneur in a scalable way. And also, basically help other people along the way, right? It's really funny that, I don't know about you, but often now what we like to teach people is what we want to learn ourselves, right? It was really interesting a couple of years ago. But I'd already gone through some journey. So if we want to train and help others to walk a path, it doesn't mean that we are at the end of the path or that we need to be there. I think it's enough if we're a couple of steps ahead to help other people to move forward as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's a great story, coming from that own need. That's a big, big, big part of it. I totally resonate with that. So tell me a bit more about where did the why come from? Like, what is your big picture for the future? Like, you've built a business, you've built a successful business, you're involved in a couple of other things where you're building communities and businesses. Like, what is your umbrella? Because usually with us entrepreneurs, everything we do falls under a certain umbrella. I call it, we call it a vision, a why, whatever it may be, or an umbrella. What is that umbrella that you're working towards? What is that big picture?
Right. The big picture and umbrella is often driven by our why, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, there's 3 elements to it. I'd say the first one is really, you know, what I saw, what was missing, right? What I saw that I needed at that time when I started out, and also driven by my own passions, right? And as they say, there's there's always a passion that drives you, why that drives you, right? So there's basically 3 passions in my life, right? I mean, the first one is entrepreneurship. I love when people can stand on their own feet, doing what they love doing most, being able to live well with it, right? In a scalable way. So entrepreneurship is my first passion. My second passion is speaking, and my third passion is my husband. Okay, good. So, you know, husband, okay, he's doing something entirely different, so I don't bring him into the business. But there's these 2 hearts, besides the heart for my husband, that are beating in my body. It's entrepreneurship and it's speaking, right? So these are my passions that drive it. So once I see what freedom you gain when you run your own business, how fulfilling it is when you are offering value out there and you're rewarded financially by offering it. You know, I really want to help as many people out there as possible to make it happen. So that is, you know, so that's my passion that drives me. The second, as I said, is what did I need back then when I started out? Or what did I need at a time when I realized I'm a solopreneur, but it's not scalable? I need to bring it to the next level. But what I really needed was, you know, first of all, information, right? How do you do certain things? How do you get started? How do you develop like a product or a service idea that becomes unique in itself, that it becomes magnetic for your clients, right? How do you, when you have that, how do you build a prototype? How do you, how do you test it out there? How do you start selling it? How do you find your first clients? How do you build a team? How do you gather teams that help you and your business to step up, which is your support team? And also, how do you bring people on board that do things together with you? So, first you need information. Second, you need people that support you, right? Then you need guidance, step-by-step guidance on how to do things. So all of these things I would have loved to have at the beginning, and I didn't have them. And I started my first business with 5 very smart consultants and business leaders, but none of them had started to build a business before. So we were all smart, but we didn't know how to start a business really. So, that is what drives me as well, what drove me back then, where I said, hey, if I didn't have that, but eventually I found a mentor that was taking me by the hand and guiding me step by step, I felt like it made a big difference. So, it's my drive and aim to help people basically to find all these little ingredients, like when you're baking a cake or you're cooking a dish, right? I mean, there's all these kind of ingredients you need to put in to make it a beautiful dish that tastes well, and that you can happily share with friends, right? So all these ingredients are not easily available to us when we're starting a business. So that is what I needed and what we are providing today. We are running programs, 6-month programs, 12-month programs, where we bring people together, either startup entrepreneurs or already more experienced entrepreneurs, solopreneurs that want to scale their business up. And we guide them step by step to either start their business or expand their business. So where we help them really to find mentors, where we are mentors to them, right? Where we help bring them together in a team where they exchange with each other, where we really guide them to develop a first product and test it and bring it into the market in very practical, fast ways. So, all these kind of things were, answering the question why, what drove me? What did I need at the beginning? And you asked me for my big vision. So let me share that with you. What I saw as well is that when I started my business quite a few years ago now, I felt that there were a lot of things available and there were some major things missing. What was available in the startup and the entrepreneurship world was that, there were startup competitions, right? And they're great. However, I'm working with startup platforms all over the globe. And in spring, I went to Vienna, for example, where there is hundreds or even thousands of people applying to a startup competition. And then there's 50 selected. And out of the 50, you take 10 or 8 that can present on a big stage. and then one wins the big prize and gets pampered, right? But that means that so many smart people with great ideas never really get any kind of support. It's only a handful of people. All these startup platforms just pick the best of the best and work with them. But what about the other hundreds or thousands? So I said, we really want to support as many people as possible along the way. There was one that I saw, too few people supported. What I also saw is that, people are supported too short term. There's a lot of these kind of startup weekends, right? Where people get together for 2 days or weeks, like 5 days. And I think they're great. These institutional startup weekends are great. However, they trigger a lot of, additional ideas and a lot of great energy. But often after, a couple of weeks or latest month after these kind of events, the teams again have fallen apart and, the big idea is in the drawer again. So I feel that most of the startup support is too short term, right? So too few people supported too short term. Then the third thing I saw was that basically a lot of these startup platforms and programs, like, how to do online marketing or even startup programs on elite universities. When I speak to, participants of those, they say, hey, Monique, they were great, but normally they end, or often they end, when people have written a business plan. Well, we know, when a business plan is written, first of all, it's not really realistic, in line with what the market really looks like. And secondly, after you have a plan, you don't have a business. The whole journey only starts, right? So what we do is we walk people through in very, very practical steps, step by step, but by getting them connected with potential clients as fast as possible so that they build something that they can sell as fast as possible as well, right? In very, very practical ways. And also the last thing that I saw was that a lot of startup platforms are very local. Every bigger city somehow has any kind of startup platform, which are often supported by government or some other institutions. And that is great. It's helpful to have like a connection point in the first place. However, I can tell you a little story. Once I was, when I was still living back in Brussels, I met someone and he was a Malaysian. He was a co-founder of Startup Malaysia. And he had come to Brussels and he went to one of the startup platforms there and said, hey, why don't we stick our heads together? And we exchanged people and experiences. And the Brussels folks said, we're not interested. And I said, what? Why do we always need to cook in our own soup? And I know, Daniel, you're active globally as well. And you know how small the world has become, right? One phone call right now, we are not even sitting at the same place. We can work together and you can build businesses together. You can find mentors, investors in other parts of the world as well. So, you don't only need to go local, you can go global. So what I said already quite a few years back when I started doing what I'm doing today, I said, we need to build a system where as many people as possible get supported. As long as possible, as practically as possible, with a global place to connect from and to connect with, right? And basically, so now coming back and summarizing up, the big vision that I have is what we are building and we are in the process of building is not only provide information, not only provide inspiration, not only provide connections with people, but across the whole startup and business expanding process, bring all the bits and pieces and elements and ingredients together that people need to really get started and move forward. So that's the big vision. And, I have a big map on the wall here beside me, that maps it out step by step of what we're gonna build and how we're gonna do that.
So tell me a bit more about that, that platform or that the piece that you're building, essentially, that puts all these puzzle pieces together for that specific type of person who is an entrepreneur. Tell me a bit more about that. Like, what are you creating in the coming, months and the years to make that a reality? Yes.
Well, the thing is, if you look at it from an online perspective, for example, you see that there is a lot of platforms out there, right? You can find platforms where you find a co-founder, or you find platforms where You know, you can do a crowdfunding, run a crowdfunding campaign and so on. But the thing is, I mean, all of these platforms are doing just one thing. And it's good that they're doing that because they're specialized in that, right? But when you're starting out, the world has become a very loud, crowded place. Where do you start looking, right? And, you know, you go to a startup meeting, for example, or an entrepreneurship meeting, and you meet people there. And that's good. But what I hear often enough is that, you know, people say, hey, I met people there, we had a nice chat, then we walked away from each other again, right? Because there's no really focused process to really connect them with each other and to make them work together, for example, right? So what we are planning to do is looking at all the things that I mentioned earlier. So first you need inspiration, right? I mean, I'm just looking through the whole process of starting and building a scalable business. At the beginning, you need inspiration. So what we're going to do is, and what I did already for the last couple of years, like you're doing right now, we are interviewing with you right now. I've run already a lot of interviews with very successful entrepreneurs that have built very successful businesses that are providing inspiration to others. And that's what we are hoping to do right now, right? With this interview, we hope to, you know, share some experience, some ideas with people that they can pick up and turn into action and become successful with it, right? So basically, the plan is, you know, really guiding people step by step through the whole process. So people that are just starting out and saying, I don't really know yet what I want to do. I don't even know if entrepreneurship is the right thing for me. We want to provide them with inspiration so that they can hear stories from others, for example, of what they did and how they did it to see, does this whole thing resonate with them? We're going to also provide them with tests where they can check, do I have what it takes to be an entrepreneur, right? Some of these elements that I'm mentioning right now, like this test and these interviews, are already available today, right? So there are a lot of elements that are already available today through the whole chain. But there's a lot more that we need to build. So, you know, the inspirational part is there, but we can expand on that, right? We can also connect with other platforms and bring information together so that when people come to our place, they find information, inspiration, information, a platform to connect with people, you know, mentors, people to build mastermind teams with, you know, a connection to experts. Like, I don't want to do it on my own. I look for a virtual assistant, so that they find all these kind of bits and pieces in one place. Because at the moment, I feel like everything is very scattered, right? And when you're starting out, you don't know where to look for what. So we want to bring that all together into one place where people can tap into, and then depending on where they are, you know, find guidance. And we want to also be very flexible. People that just want to connect with us to get inspired, they can get inspired, right? If people come to us and say, we are looking for concrete how-to information, they can find that too. If people come to us and say, hey, we are not only looking for information, but we really need experts on our side that can help us make it happen, we'll provide them the experts. If people say, I don't want to do it on my own, I want someone to do it for me, we can connect them with people that do it for and with them. You see what I mean? So I just feel like this holistic approach doesn't exist. I haven't seen it yet. Have you?
Well, it's interesting. I can't think of anything. I know what you mean. You know, it's like everybody's got a specific piece of the puzzle they're solving. And I think that is incredibly important, because there's people coming and saying, that's all I need, right? And that's great. But then there's no follow-up to that.
Yes.
Because there's like, there's no follow-up. So what I see is there's like the central, you know, place or marketplace or whatever you're going to call it, the central place where those kinds of entrepreneurs can get to. And then I don't know how you're going to set it up, but probably, you know, they're set up on the central platform, and then they get access to this thing where it's like, okay, funding. Okay, funding ticked off. And usually when they would be with that other platform, there would be no follow-up, because funding, that's it. That's our specialty. That's great. But then there's no follow-up. So that's tick. They come back to the platform, and then there's the next step in the process based on whatever they need. and then they get on to the next thing. But they always have that central place to get to. That's how I see it.
Yes, exactly. That's what we want to build. But you can see that it's huge, right? So we are actually building it step by step. A lot of these elements we already have in place, but you know, there's a lot more to build, and that I think will keep us busy for quite a few years to come from now.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the way I look at it is there's less to build and more to connect.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you've got the platform already set up. I mean, you've built a successful business. You've built the programs. You've mentored lots and lots of people through programs, through your personal mentoring and everything. So that kind of central place is already set up, and you're probably already doing that on a casual basis. You say, you got to talk to this person, you got to do that, you got to talk, you know, check out this platform. So you're already the central platform for now, but it's very informal, right? So what you're doing is you take yourself out of the picture and basically say, I no longer I am the platform, but now I am leading the platform, so that when people come to it, they have a structured way of going through this, instead of me saying, you need to do this because that's not scalable, you know, in your own words.
Exactly.
The platform can scale that. So when people come to that, they're signed up. Now it's set up for scale, so that you involve all these other universes out there, and you connect those universes to the central platform.
Yes.
So that whenever somebody comes into that, they have all the puzzle pieces right in front of them. So they don't need to think, where do I look? Where do I need to go? What do I, who do I, how do I, where do I, and all these kinds of things. So I think this is huge. This is great. Thanks for sharing that. I think this is a really, really core piece, because it really guides people through the entire life cycle of entrepreneurship, where they come to one platform. And obviously it doesn't make sense to build everything around it yourself, because why'd you
and I don't want to.
The wheel's already here.
Yeah, exactly.
Your role, obviously, that I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your role is to connect the wheels to the car.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. There's a car with a lot of wheels, but
and some car elements we are producing ourselves, like a car manufacturer, right? I mean, some of the elements they produce themselves, and eventually they assemble it, right? But they also have a lot of suppliers and partners to work with. They bring the whole car together, right?
Exactly. So this is beautiful. I think this is because it's sort of like taking what you've built to an entirely new level. Because just you and me were both connectors. We're both really good at that. I think that's one of the reasons why we get along so well as well.
Yes.
So this is really beautiful. So tell me a bit more. What are some of the ways that what are some of the other things? You just tell me quickly where. I want to try to fit this under the umbrella, the speakers community that you're building.
Yes.
For me, I've seen a lot of speakers communities. I've never seen that quality of a speakers community. Then you're involved with the Transformational Leaders Council. Yeah,
Association of Transformation Leaders in Europe. Yes,
exactly. Mm-hmm. I've got it almost right. So
yes, you did. Perfect.
So you're involved with those things. How do they fit under the umbrella? How does that move you towards that umbrella?
Right. I mean, the speakers community is basically, you know, I mean, you asked me for the big umbrella, right? The speakers community is in a way a spike of that, right? I mentioned to you earlier that I'm a passionate speaker. I'm speaking, you know, really all over the globe on how do you become a successful, scalable entrepreneur, right? How do you start building your business? How do you bring it onto a scalable level as well? And you know, I also speak about how do you pitch, for example, because in pitching, you know, basically entrepreneurship and language comes together, right? And speaking. In your pitch, obviously you want to say something fast in a way so that you convince anyone of anything almost every time, right? So once I'm a speaker myself, I met a lot of people that said, hey, you know, or I've seen that they are good speakers, but they don't know really how to turn their speaking into a business. How do speakers actually start making money in the first place? And then again, I feel like a lot of even speakers stay stuck in that model where they get paid as speakers, but they're not making money off stage. So it's not scalable, right? And the audience that they speak to is limited, because if they don't do anything online, if they're not building online products or building a team to share their message and their experience with a wider audience, their influence is pretty limited, and you and I are people that work on empowering people to make a bigger difference, right? And so basically the speaker community, as I said, that we built was like, it's like a spike off the umbrella in a way. It's, it's just supporting speakers specifically to get the word out and to, a lot of them get standing ovations, but they're not getting paid well for their speaking. And even if they get paid, they're not really very visible and they don't have a scalable business model. So this is one of the things, how that fits into what we do. And, how did the whole thing get started? A couple of years ago, and again, things start out of our own need. Quite a few years ago now, I said, hey, even though I've been on stages for 15 years, I think when you speak as an employed expert is an entirely different way of speaking compared to now I'm an entrepreneur and I speak about things that are close to my heart. My experience was it was an entirely different way of speaking. And a couple of years ago, I was at a point to say, now I'm an entrepreneur, I want to step up onto bigger stages again. How do I do it? Well, first you ask people that have done it already, right, to learn from them. And then secondly, you share what you learn with others. So I connected with a lot of people and they said, hey, we would really like to learn from successful speakers on how they build their speaker business. So I started a project and we asked, it's always a good idea to ask your potential clients, once we go out there and we consolidate information on how to build a speaker business, what information would you like to have? What are your most burning questions? How would you consolidate us to, how would you like us to consolidate all the information? And people said, hey, we would love to see videos and we'd love to have an ebook. So we went out there all over the globe, right, and interviewed very successful speakers, a lot of them actually world champion speakers even, and we asked them, how did you build your speaker business? And, the thing is, as you probably also know, when you start a project and you're not limiting it to your own needs and you're not limiting it to yourself, often enough it starts growing beyond what you ever imagined, right? So we interviewed quite a few of these successful speakers. And along the way, we had about 150 people by now that contributed to it, that were interviewed, that wrote chapters to the book, that transcribed the interviews, that even drew pictures for the book and all these kind of things. So, and then we had like a sneak preview workshop to present some of the results. And people were saying, hey, we'd really love to connect with each other and help each other. And then we started to build this online community. In which you have spoken recently in one of our monthly My Speaker Business calls, right? So thank you very much for being on that as well. It was amazing. People loved you, but you know that. And, and on a regular basis, we connect with them. And we didn't really do much, but, in that community, almost every day, people want to join us because they feel like there is an energy, there is a space to connect with others and so on, right?
Yeah.
This is how it gets started. And then...
Yeah. I just wanted to jump in there because there's a really interesting connection that I see with what you're building now and the speakers business and pretty much everything that you've created, because you're a really good curator. What you've built with the ebook, what you've built with the speakers business, you pull people together and organize them in a way that's beneficial for everyone. If I just put it in one sentence, that's what you're doing right now with the platform.
Yes.
You're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You didn't try to reinvent the wheel with the speakers community. You didn't try to reinvent the wheel with the ebook. You don't try to reinvent the wheel. You just connect the wheels to the car and you organize them in a way that it's efficient, effective, and works for everyone.
Exactly.
So this is great. So I wanna come to a close end of the interview just for time's sake. So is there any kind of last piece that you want to share, maybe a big lesson that you've learned in all those years, or something that you feel could be really valuable for somebody to hear it?
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, for everyone that watches this out there, if you really have been dreaming about starting your business and you haven't taken the courage to get there, listen to your gut feeling. If there's a message for you coming up again and again, listen to your gut. Just, follow what you think you really want to do, and don't get stuck because of other people's opinions or anything. Just trust your gut. Any kind of big decision in life, any kind of daily small decision, listen to what your inside is telling you, because that's normally right. So trust your gut is one of the messages I'd like to really leave you with. And then also, you know, another thing is, I've been struggling with that for a long time as well. I always wanted to make everything perfect. And I was very much impacted by what other people would say about me and so on. So, you know, I was really hesitant of developing products, bringing them out there. But, you know, the message that I would like to leave with you all is, never be afraid to think big, to go for big, and to be visible out there. Okay? Because to be honest, whatever your small or big dream is, if you want to serve others, you will become a magnet to like-minded people. And, you know, so never be afraid to go big. Never be afraid of, you know, being visible out there. And even if you bring something out that is not perfect yet, rather bring it out and make it perfect as you go along. So that's the second one. And the third one really is, don't do it alone. You know, you don't need to do anything alone. You know, get support, find a mentor, join a program, gather people, bring them together to support you along the way. So trust your dreams, trust your gut feelings, never be afraid of going big or being visible out there, and don't do it alone. You know, join a program, join us if you want to, you know, find a mentor. We help you find a mentor if that's what you want. And connect with people like Daniel. I mean, you are bringing, you know, change makers together as well. So, you know, these are the big messages I would like to share with people.
Yeah, I think they're huge. They're so big, and we could talk about for 17 months on any of these topics. But that's another conversation. So that's I think that's huge. Thanks for sharing those golden nuggets. Really something to think about. You know, just in that 2 minutes, they're really powerful. So. Just to finish this off, where can people connect with you and where can people find you? What's the best place?
Right. So basically, you can just look up our businesslaunchportal.com. And if you want to join our network of global entrepreneurs and get regular hints on how to get your business started or bring it up to make it scalable, you can also go to our circle, which is businesslaunchportal.com/circle. Or simply get in touch with me, you know, Monique Blokzyl. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. Just reach out, and I'm always open to connect. As Daniel is saying, I mean, big visions require great people to come together. So anyone that shares that vision and mission and wants to contribute, wants to connect with us, just reach out. I really look forward to talk to you.
Yeah, this is great. So we're going to link to the Business Launch Portal and to your LinkedIn profile below this video, so people can connect with you and, you know, learn more about you and what you're building. So this is great. Thanks for doing that. You know, very, very happy to have you here on the show. Thank you so much for showing up.
Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. The work you do is amazing. And, you know, it just takes some people like us to get together to do even more amazing things and make things burning, right? So thank you very much for having me.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. Thanks so much, Monique. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.